Hello, everyone. I'm Allison Cheney, Chief Digital Training Officer here at Bootcamp Digital, and we are here for our weekly live cast. I'm really excited this week to introduce you to Victoria Ziegler, who is going to tell us a little bit about a project that she has worked on recently that was focused on video as the main form of communication. And as you know, we are always telling you how important video is to communicate your message. It's actually one of the most effective ways to communicate a message. So we love it when we talk to other marketers who've had success in these areas. So we've invited Victoria in today to share her success with us and tell us a little bit about her project. So we'll start with a little intro. Victoria, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. And of course, my favorite question is, tell me your superpowers.
Fun. Well, I'm Victoria Ziegler, everybody. I'm the founder and creative director at Bright Coral, which is a video production, photography, and design studio. I started off as a one-woman show a few years ago, and just this last year, January 2020, so before all this COVID craziness hit, my husband joined me full-time. So we had no way of knowing that the whole world was about to collapse, but my background is I started in video and moved into digital marketing just because the two are so kind of married together now. So originally, my degree is in video production, and I thought that I wanted to work on feature films, and I did work on a few features, and quickly realized, wow, this life is not for me. That is a really intense lifestyle. So you have to be a very particular type of person to work on features in these 16-hour days and all of that. So with my company, like I said, I do creative direction, and I produce a lot of videos. A lot of my projects are one-off video projects. And the project that we're going to be talking about today is with one of my clients. So one of my long-term retainer clients is a nonprofit organization called the Endangered Wolf Center. So you'll get to see some cute animal videos later on. But they're one of my favorite clients just because I'm very passionate about wildlife conservation. So it's kind of a direction that I'm trying to move my business into. And of course, being only a couple years into owning my own business, I can't always pick and choose every project that I'm like, this is boring, I don't want to work on it. I still have to work on it, right?
Right.
So this is kind of a fun one where I get to marry my passions with my work. So yeah, I do make time for a couple of retainer clients, but most of my projects through Bright Coral are one-off video projects, one-off photography assignments. And with the Endangered Wolf Center, I do a broader scope of marketing. So we'll talk about video, but I'll also show you some design incorporations and kind of how all those pieces fit together.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk about it. And I'm excited this is always fun, of course, to talk to other marketers and just kind of talk shop. How'd you do it? How did it work out? So let's start talking about one of the things we always talk about when we build a program or build a campaign around something is, what is the problem we're trying to solve, right? Or what is the goal for the campaign? So tell us a little bit about, at the beginning of this project, when you sat down with the client, usually there's a discovery session. So tell us about that.
Okay, you froze for a second, but I think we're back.
Sorry, our connection's a little choppy today. So
I think I heard the question though.
Okay, yeah. So, and just in case it froze, but I'll go back with the question. So, tell us about the goal that you were trying to achieve with the campaign, or the problem you were trying to solve.
Yeah. So for this particular campaign, this was a year-end giving campaign for a nonprofit organization. So the problem and the goal is to raise. We had enough funds to do a matching donor had offered $150,000 match. So we were trying to meet that match, and if we could surpass it, because we knew that they would be able to kick in a little bit more to match if we could do it. So with COVID, it was kind of like we have no idea where people are, financially. It was just such a weird time, and especially in the winter and fall last year, it's like we just had no idea how it was going to go, because every year prior, we couldn't really base it on any of that. So it was kind of this, how do we raise this necessary fundage for, during the pandemic, and it was a bit of an urgent project. So what they were doing is creating a new habitat for a critically endangered wolf. So the red wolf is one of the most endangered mammals in the world, and they're our American red wolf. So kind of like, I'm thinking of other animals like an American alligator or a bald eagle. So we like to kind of liken it to some of these other species. And so, we just didn't know. People are broke. We're getting stimulus checks. How do we make something that shows this urgency of this animal that, just because the pandemic hit, this urgency didn't go away for this animal, but it's like all these other problems are really taking the forefront. So we knew that it was going to be kind of a unique challenge to try to get that to the forefront and get people to care, because that really, wolves are a very polarizing topic. So depending on where you live, maybe you've heard a little bit of controversy. I know Colorado just got done doing some voting about wolves. So that's kind of where we were at, is trying to figure out how we sort through all of the COVID era fundraising.
Yeah, well, and you make a good point too. It's like you're starting a campaign in the middle of a time when it's like, whoa, is this even realistic? And literally 0 people at the beginning of last year knew the answer to that question. And I think we're still figuring it out. Like, this is unprecedented. Like, we've never had a pandemic in a digital age. So as we see things like in some ways go, in ways that we didn't expect, I mean, everything is just not anything that we have any precedence for. So that's already a challenge. And then on top of that, even like take away the pandemic and everything else, you're dealing with a topic that is controversial. I mean, just from my own experience, I have a neighbor who has wolves as pets, and they're mixes, but they are wolves. They howl. They're beautiful. And they sing their songs, but the neighborhood is not always a fan. And just spend 5 minutes on Nextdoor. And I mean, it's like threads and threads of people all the time talking about the controversial, like, is it right? Is it not right? Do they take care of the animals? Are they happy? So I get it. Like, you've got these layers of, can I even get people to donate in the time of a pandemic? And how do we position this? Because it will probably be triggering to people. So you're already dealing with challenges at the front end. So,
and two, just to kind of about the project too, is that we were creating new habitat. So we're not a rescue facility. We work with species survival plans. So, so basically what that means is that it's kind of like we call it like a dating app for the wolves. The experts pair them together. And pretty much what we need is the space to do it, the space to breed them and create a healthy population, since they're so endangered out in the wild. So that's kind of where the funds we needed were to create this habitat, so that we could have, a fenced in habitat so that they could breed in peace. And we're not like a typical zoo where people can come and see all of the animals. Some of the recovery species animals that they work with are kind of off the tour path.
Oh, okay. Got it. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this. So as you were, like coming into this, what were the different marketing solutions that you considered before you came to the decision of what, and we'll talk about what that was in a minute, but what did you consider at the beginning of this? What kind of things were on the table?
So I've worked with this organization for several years. So this is the second consecutive year that I've worked on this particular campaign. But like I said, we couldn't really go by last year. So the prior years' events were huge fundraisers. So this year it's like all events are out. Focus on the digital aspect. And that's kind of where we decided to focus up and really push the digital side.
Got it. Awesome. So then let's talk then about what solutions specifically. I mean, we know we kind of teased this when we were talking about video, but tell us about the campaign. Like what did that look like once you built it out? What did you decide ultimately to do?
So we created a fundraising campaign that was crowdfunded. So, you might think about Kickstarter or GoFundMe are kind of these big ones. We use a platform that is kind of designed for nonprofits called Gratitude. And they're partners of ours that we love working with them. So if you haven't heard of them, definitely check them out if you're in the nonprofit world. They help kind of manage a lot of the moving parts of a campaign. So none of this was just like all me. I definitely don't want to take credit for that. I'm working with the development department at the organization itself. I'm working with Gratitude. Where I come in is really a lot of the creative side and the scripting of the video. So we chose to go with Gratitude because they focus on a video kind of as the backbone, I would call it, of the campaign. So I might be able to share my screen, show you kind of what that campaign looks like, just so you can get an idea. Let me see if this...
Yeah, I see it. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll go ahead and click share.
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
There you go. And I love that you said you work with other things or with other like applications, because that's really something we try to encourage our audience to do as well. Is like no one person should or has to do any of this on their own, and there's so many great partnerships out there. So
try to collaborate whenever possible. I even collaborate with a lot of other production companies locally here in St. Louis. When I have work outside of a scope of me and my husband. So very collaborative. Here's so what I'm showing here is this crowdfunding page. So it probably looks pretty similar to what you're used to seeing with like a Kickstarter campaign. You have the little bar here. You can see how many people donated. Of course, this ended, so 0 days left. And so this video is the backbone of it. And I'll just play a second of it so that you can kind of see.
Some exciting news for you and a special opportunity to get involved in the conservation of the wild. The time to
kind of moving forward, so you can
soon after, we're one of the first facilities to successfully breed.
So the video was kind of thrown together to pull in a lot of footage that was already existing, and then we just did this quick interview to kind of create that layered piece underneath where it's kind of the story of the campaign. So the script of the video was a big first part of this project, and then there's a storyline here about why, what we're doing, and then there was also a gift component of if you gave $100 or more, you would get this little cute Give the Boot to 2020 so it was a little bit of a and I can stop sharing this now, but basically what we were kind of trying to test is, with COVID in mind and everything, would people be incentivized by this gift? Because every year there's some little gift, but we never really focused on it before. So that's kind of one of the things that we were testing.
Okay. And just, out of curiosity, how did that work? Because I saw that, I was like, wow, what an interesting way to play on, sometimes we say pop culture. I don't know if it's necessarily pop culture, but sort of what's going on right now, current events. How did that work? Just,
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the big takeaways that we learned from this campaign, and we were really glad that we tested it out, because otherwise, of course, how do you ever figure that kind of thing out other than just asking people here and there? You could ask them why they donated, but really found that for our nonprofit, most people were not really incentivized by the gift. It was really the ads that performed well were the ads that were focused on the impact and the urgency of the species. So a lot more of that emotional connection, which makes a lot of sense to me. But that was a big takeaway from it. Yeah.
Wow. That's really fascinating, because what I learned in the last year is one of the things that's really stood out to me is, we made a lot of assumptions at the beginning of the year. Oh, people are not going to spend money. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. and yes, not to take away from the reality of what the pandemic is causing. There's a lot of, bad stuff happening. However, it's surprising at how much there still is that nature of giving, and there still is that nature of, success. And it's not just in the nonprofit. We see success in a lot of areas where we thought, oh, people, because of the pandemic, are actually going to spend less. They're actually spending more. We see them spending more on advertising dollars. We see them spending more, on products and services that we thought maybe weren't going to be as popular during this time. I'm like, So I love that what you showed in that, kind of the measurable result there is like, wow, if a cause is important enough, and if it really is, if you can create a message that taps into that emotion, then you don't have to incentivize. And I think that's a beautiful thing of it, is like, you shouldn't have to, or maybe not shouldn't, but isn't it great when people actually care because they care, instead of like, oh, I want this free thing. Like, that's really not the important thing. It's really because they care about the wolves. And not just that, but the messaging is what made the connection. Otherwise, they would have never known. So I want to talk a little bit about just sort of the campaign itself, and just sort of the results you got, but also the cost. So, we always talk about ROI in these types of campaigns. So I want to talk about like what went into it, and then what were the measurable, easy for me to say, measurable results that came out of it. So what did it cost in time, money, energy, effort, and then what did they produce as a result?
Yeah. So of course, with this kind of thing, it's a little bit tricky to pull out the exact, ROI. But what I did try to put together and look at the numbers was thinking about it, since this is a retainer client for me. I treat retainer clients a little differently, of course, than my one-off projects. So I'm able to kind of have a little bit more flexibility with a project like this. Whereas if you're working with somebody that happens to do all the things I do, like video and design and all of that, I can see it being a little bit more expensive, just because you're like piecing out different parts versus like I was in it and I could create all of this kind of cohesively. So I would say probably I'm a big fan of using Toggle to track my time. And for campaigns and video projects, I'm very diligent about writing out exactly what I was working on, tracking my hours. I've got my husband doing it now that he works with me, and he was so against it at first, but now he's like, oh, I need to toggle this. So
I love it. Yes.
So I would definitely recommend for anyone working in creative marketing, if you're doing your own business, highly recommend Toggle, and just really paying attention to how much time things are taking you, because like I get in a zone and then it's like everything else blurs away and I'm working on it for 10 hours. And then it's like, if I wasn't tracking that, I would very easily, misplace my time. So I would say that a lot of the design work, copy editing, emails, a lot of that probably took me somewhere around 20 hours. And this is like over the course of a couple of weeks. So that's kind of what I saw on my Toggle while I looked at those reports. And then for the video side, like I said, video is my background. So that was kind of plug in different pieces, writing the script, and then and Gratitude also helps with that process, script writing, and take it and kind of refine it. So so that was collaborative, and then filming and editing and all of that. Usually a video like that would probably cost, I would say, anywhere from like $1,000 to $2,000. That's probably, somewhere, it depends on what you're putting in the video, but and there's certainly ways that you could make that more affordable if you wanted to try to do like a voiceover over footage that already exists, or photos. I see, especially like if you go on Gratitude's website and kind of scroll at some of their projects, you can see how people do it differently. So yeah, that's kind of where I was on time and money.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that you use the tracking, the time tracking. I used to use one called My Hours, and then another one called, I can't remember, Tick Spot or something. So I've used tons of them. I haven't tried Toggle yet, but when I had my digital agency, I was the same way. I would make everyone track everything, and they were not fans. I'll just say, like, no one loves. Yes, I was just gonna say they feel micromanaged. And
yeah, I used to, like, I worked for another agency before starting Bright Coral, and I thought it was so pesky and micromanagey. I used to complain about it to my boss and say, like, you don't trust me that I'm doing my work. But it really is more for me, like, going back and seeing these reports and being able, if I were to get a project like this that's outside of my retainer with them, and I would be able to look at that and break it down and say, here's what it would cost.
Yeah, and that's really important. I mean, it's so important to have to be in relationship with how much time things take, because something that, I mean, I've been doing digital marketing for over 20 years, and I still track my time because I'll be like, oh, that took me 20 minutes. And I look at the time, I'm like, whoa, I was doing that for 3 hours. Like, whoa.
Big difference. When you enjoy your work, because, probably everybody tuning in too, like, you're tuning in because you enjoy what you do and you're learning.
Yeah, exactly.
So it can feel not like work. And I'm having to always remind my husband, like, would you do this for your recreation? If not, Toggle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. And I think it's, time is money too. And so when we're talking about measuring the return on things, it's important to understand. I mean, you've got a retainer and all of that, but even when you're managing your own projects, it's important to understand how much time goes into things. And also, it's not a good or bad. It's just like, okay, this is the benchmark, and can we improve that next time? And it just helps us to be more efficient. So I love that you do that. And I think just for our listeners and all that, it's a really, I really recommend time tracking. I know it seems, like you said, micromanaging and all that, but man, it is eye-opening and can really help you tighten things up and just be more efficient. So getting back into the efficiency and the ROI of things, let's talk about the results then. So what are the actual, measurable results? Obviously, the ultimate goal was to raise funds and to have this, facility. So what was the ultimate goal of this campaign, or the ultimate result of the campaign?
Yeah, so the goal, like we talked about earlier, was to do $150,000, which would be matched. And the result was we actually raised $213,987. So
yes,
yeah, so we did go over, and I was thinking too about ROI and trying to kind of set up those type of goals when you don't know how it's going to pan out, and especially if you're doing one of these campaigns for the first time. We knew that last year we reached our $200,000 goal. Which, like I said, very collaborative. Most of that is coming from large donors that have a relationship with the center. So what we were kind of trying to do is get some new donors in the door, that people that haven't heard of it, using Facebook ads and trying to target different audiences that were lookalike audiences. So we did end up going over the amount. We did secure an additional $50,000 match. So $200,000 was matched, which was just amazing for COVID year. And and so, kind of thinking about some of those expenses that we talked about earlier, subtracting that and thinking in terms of, like, how much did we actually make. I think that it was definitely worth it. The couple of $1,000s that we did spend on marketing and video creation, our collaboration with Latitude is on a retainer basis as well. So I think we're able to kind of look back and see those numbers and determine that it was worthwhile. I think the number that was actually donated through the Gratitude page was around like $36,000 from 271 donors.
Awesome. And then now, did you run the Facebook ads, or did Gratitude run it? Like, how are the Facebook ads actually run?
So we work really closely together. So my role through my company is to do the creative side. So I was the creative for the ads. They would kind of piece together. They have like templates and they piece together creative, and then we kind of take it and run with it and edit it, create, the visuals that go along with the copy. So it's very collaborative. I do have a couple examples of the creative that I can show, and that'll kind of show.
Yeah, that'd be great. And any tips you want to share too, if it would help the audience. Yeah. I'd love that.
I'll share this one. Let's see. This is a couple of different examples of the video creative. We did some.
Ooh, I actually see. I see two different ones here. Let me see which one I should share. I've got two windows. There we go. Let's show this one.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. There's a little countdown there. There we go. Okay.
There we go. So this is a video of some puppy butts. This is when we launched on Giving Tuesday. We tried to just keep it really light and cute and simple. And then an alternate was Help Save the American Red Wolf, where we had a little in the caption of the video with less than 20. So trying to kind of play on some of that urgency. This video has sound, but I'm not playing it because it's it would be annoying. But this is a wolf howling, which is quite. It sounds like in your neighborhood you might know how loud it is.
Yes.
But this is actually a real camera video. So these were kind of the three. I made various sizes of these three videos, but we used these kind of converted. Even after Giving Tuesday, we took off the Giving Tuesday messaging and used them, without this Giving Tuesday logo here, and converted those to just being kind of evergreen Facebook ads.
Nice. So you took something that was working and you just tweaked it a little and repurposed it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
Interesting takeaways from this was that this last video here about let's give them something to howl about. This, I added a little sound on. When I took away this Giving Tuesday, we added a little sound on graphic on here.
Okay.
And because it had sound, we found people that it was our best performing ad because, and kind of why I did that is because we wanted to try engaging people initially really quickly. And so having that like sound on and in the copy and on the actual video got people to just click the video. And then if you notice here, this wolf kind of stands around for a second before he howls. So you're already kind of invested in like, I want to hear this howl.
Right. Like, uh-oh, here it comes.
Yeah. So it kind of worked out that way that, it did pan out where this was the best performing ad and people were really engaged with it. I think it got something like, let me see how many shares it got. 179 shares. So a lot of people were sharing this and engaging with it. And actually, so I had like the little icon of the little sound on thing at the bottom. And so that was one of our big takeaways was like engage people with the audio when it's something like a wolf howling. If you have some sort of sound that you can incorporate, most people aren't watching videos with sound. So you really kind of have to force them to if that's something important to your video. But, even like when I create videos for other clients for social media, it's like audio should be very secondary. If your whole video, if you're not putting captions on, you're missing a whole audience of people that are just not going to engage with it at all.
So true. So true. We talk about that in our trainings all the time. And I think that's such a great example of saying like, of what you showed there. It's like, even with, even though we know most people watch with the sound off, you found an interesting way to still engage them and get them to turn the sound on. But the point there is that you got the engagement. And with engagement, you get more visibility. So it's just, I love seeing examples like this that are like, wow, what an interesting way to just think outside of like, okay, everybody's going to have the sound off. How do we make it interesting? Like, oh, let's get them to turn the sound on. Let's get them. And, and I'm doing it too. I'm sitting here like, oh, but I think I want to hear it. So like, turn it on. Yeah, so I totally get it. So awesome. So a couple more questions here as we get ready to wrap up. This has been so fun to just learn about it. And I could watch the video of the puppy butt forever. Like that just makes my whole world right now.
Like, I want to be able to show puppy butts. And I think our copy, I think I wrote something like these are the rarest puppy butts you'll see all day, or something like that.
Adorable. Well, I'm sure it's a lot easier when you have things like puppies in your marketing materials, but we've always joked that like we should have puppies, like we should just bring puppies into our trainings or something, and that would make things more interesting. But so the last thing I'll ask you here, Victoria, is just to other businesses who are creating video, that are creating campaigns like this, just what advice do you have for people that are out there that are looking to do marketing campaigns, whether it's in the nonprofit space, whether it's with creating video, anything like that? What words of wisdom would you like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I deal with a lot of, a big variety of types of clients that come to me for video in particular. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people come and they know they need video, but they just kind of have no idea where to start. And for a campaign like this, the way we've talked about it over the past half an hour is kind of, reverse engineering of like, well, what do we want to accomplish? What are we trying to, in this case, we're trying to raise funds and get people to understand the urgency of this animal. So I like to start off a lot of my client discovery calls with talking about the emotions that you want to evoke, because video is so emotional. And if you're not bringing out the right emotions and like pretty quickly, we only have a couple of seconds to, do we want to have like the sad puppy look of the famous commercials? But right. People come to me, like I've worked with other wolf organizations actually, like in Colorado and other places, and they've come to me and said, like, I want to evoke that feeling from those sad puppy ads.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, like that's depressing, but we'll do it, we can make those emotions happen. But that's a really good starting place, is how do you want your audience to feel? In this case, we needed urgency. We needed, a lot of caring about, kind of a Lorax level of caring about an animal that they might not have ever known existed. So that's usually where I start, and how I like to kind of frame, when I'm script writing and storyboarding and coming up with these concepts. It's all pretty emotional for me.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you. There's some great tips today and some great conversation here. I really enjoyed having you as our guest today and this week. And I encourage everyone to go out and, always be trying new things. And I love just looking at other examples. And I'm even thinking like, how can I go back to some of my videos and try that little sound on feature? Just something so simple as saying, turn the sound on. And you have to ask, like you have to tell people what to do. I don't know, like people just like they're just sitting there waiting to be told what to do, I guess. I don't know, but it's a good point. Like you proved in your data that actually worked really well. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing the story with us. And of course, the puppy butts. So if you'd like to share a link to it, I'm sure, there might be some donations, but yeah. And of course, if let us know where we can find you. You said Bright Coral is your company, but how can we find you online if we want to check you out, what you do?
Yeah, I'll share a link so we can put it in the comments. It's brightcoralcreative.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Victoria. And thank you guys all for joining us. Remember, every Wednesday at 3:00 Eastern, we have our live cast. So be sure to tune in every Wednesday or catch the replay so you can get all these amazing tips. And we'll see you soon. Thank you guys for joining. And thank you so much, Victoria, for coming and sharing your story with us. And we'll see you soon. Yep. Bye-bye now.
Bye.